This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more, MOR, with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. Guys, I've got something cool to tell you about. As an engineering leader, a manager, and an engineer myself, I'm geeking out over a new product I'm just discovering that helps me with each of these points of view. The great team at SEMA, builders of the SEMA intelligence platform, have been working on what they call the Product Roadmap Radar. It's this integrated solution that uses generative AI to observe your code and Jira in order to summarize, synthesize, and make it easier to deliver your roadmap. It not only helps keep your roadmap on track, but it helps reduce the time engineers spend in meetings. Cue all the engineers clapping. The Product Roadmap Radar is extremely easy to set up. This only takes about 5 minutes. Just enable your integrations and let AI do all the mapping for you. My favorite part? I'm glad you asked. The radar doesn't just tell you about your roadmap. It suggests changes you need to make based on the code that's been written and the stories that have been addressed. No commenting, no special setup, all generative AI. It gives you an outside view of your roadmap based on the code and projects a target completion date based on outstanding work and activity. Again, no comments, no special setup. It even detects shadow work when development is being done but Jira isn't being updated. I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I think you will be too. Take a second to watch a short but awesome demo video. Go to codestory.co/PRR to watch it today. You'll like what you see. This episode is sponsored by Postman. Postman is the world's leading API platform, trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500 and over 40 million developers. Tap into APIs from 18,000 plus companies to power agents that make smarter decisions. Learn more at postman.com/podcast/codestory. This message is sponsored by Melee Search. Today, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And Melee Search gives your users the experience they need with lightning-fast performance, full-text search, AI usage, and multimodal capabilities. Melee Search delivers relevant results in less than the blink of an eye. Use the promo code CODESTORY at checkout to get 2 months free at meleesearch.com. That's MEILI search.com. This episode is brought to you by Auth. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use Auth. Auth is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, Auth adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When Auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with Auth. Check them out at propelauth.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com.
We were trying to use some serverless technology to power some of our main business logic and APIs. And one of the things that caused is it was hard to observe exactly how the workload was taking advantage of the compute underneath or was hitting bottlenecks in that compute. And so there was one particular occasion where the service basically was down and we were scrambling to figure out what was going on. We thought, hey, maybe it's the database provider, but they were saying everything is fine. And eventually, throughout triaging that problem and really trying to dig into it, we realized that our foundation was shaky and what we were actually running our workloads on. I'm Matt Heyman, and I'm a co-founder and the CTO at Round.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
A
back.
company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
to ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Laphart, and today how Matt Heyman is powering your app's core services, all the way from sign-in to scale. Matt Heyman knew he was going to be in tech way back in his younger days. His dad worked for IBM, so there were always fun things to talk about and play with. He got his first family computer when he was 4 years old and started programming BASIC when he was 8. Eventually, they got dial-up through AOL, and he took off building websites with PHP and MySQL. But outside of tech, he's married with 3 kids. He loves to travel and spend time with his family. He also plays several instruments, including the piano and pipe organ, and enjoys tinkering with smart home devices. Right around the time of the pandemic, Matt and his co-founders were pitching a new company idea in Y Combinator around data privacy. After receiving the feedback that there wasn't a big market for the original idea, they started to jam on other ideas on how to pivot, and quickly landed on how cool it would be to have passwordless authentication. This is the creation story of Round.
So Round is a next-gen frictionless authentication platform. It really grew out of a pivot. We started Round right around the time that COVID was hitting the world and shutting things down and changing the face of just about everything. That was obviously a bad thing, but it also created a lot of opportunity. We actually had the opportunity to bring the company through Y Combinator, and we did that in 2022. And when we got into Y Combinator, we were actually pitching the company as a data privacy product. And what we quickly realized after reading a lot of the material that YC has to offer and getting some advice is that there probably wasn't a market for exactly what we were looking for. So we started brainstorming about ways to shift the company in directions that maybe weren't totally out of the data privacy space, because we definitely cared about that a lot. But we started tossing around ideas, and one of the things that really hit home is how much we all hated passwords. It just seemed every time you went to use a new product or a new app online, the first thing you have to do is you have to create an account, you have to enter your email address and then put in a password, and then you have to remember that password or save it in your password manager or do the horrible thing of just using the same password everywhere. So that makes it easy to remember. And so we said, what if there was a world that did not have passwords? And so we decided really to build a product that was passwordless first, that didn't even support passwords. If you don't support passwords, your password can't get hacked. So we pivoted the company and started building this Auth product instead. And ironically, I've always been fascinated by security and access control and making sure the right people have the right access to what they should have access to. When I was a kid, probably an early teenager, I actually developed a program. It was not very secure, but it was called boot disk security. And it basically made sure when your computer started up that you had a specific floppy disk in the disk drive and the computer wouldn't boot without that. Now, it was easily hackable and you could work around it and find your way in if you were determined. But it was just one of those, I think there's a pattern here.
So let's dive into the MVP. So that first version of Round that you built, that first, passwordless authentication piece that you stepped out to build and to pivot towards. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
We really wanted to not start from scratch, and we felt like we had a good kind of platform foundation with what we'd already built in the data privacy space in terms of prototypes and existing code. So we started with that as our platform, which gave us a lot of tools already. It was built in TypeScript and React and Node.js. We were able to use that to get ourselves off the ground faster. But when we set out to build the MVP, we set a goal of what can we do in 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks just to get this off the ground. We'll manually onboard customers. It'll require a lot of work, a lot of hands-on work. It's not going to be something that's just self-service tool that any developer can pick up at first. And that's really how we set out to build it. We actually started looking for customers and talking to early stage customers or potential customers to try to understand what their needs were, how they were building Auth and things like that. And so we built a very minimum viable product, and all that it could do was email magic link authentication. So you would get to an app, it would pop up a dialog saying, enter your email address, and you'd click continue. It would send you an email, you'd click the link in the email, and that would authenticate that tab so that you could access the product that you were trying to access. And we just started working to onboard customers that were interested and actually do a lot of the integration work for them. And that what that did is that also helped us learn what the challenges would be that our customers would face in terms of doing the integration, and use that to create an iteration loop of making the onboarding experience better, improving the SDKs, and so on and so forth.
Guys, I've got something cool to tell you about. As an engineering leader, a manager, and an engineer myself, I'm geeking out over a new product I'm just discovering that helps me with each of these points of view. The great team at SEMA, builders of the SEMA intelligence platform, have been working on what they call the Product Roadmap Radar. It's this integrated solution that uses generative AI to observe your code and Jira in order to summarize, synthesize, and make it easier to deliver your roadmap. It not only helps keep your roadmap on track, but it helps reduce the time engineers spend in meetings. Cue all the engineers clapping. The Product Roadmap Radar is extremely easy to set up. This only takes about 5 minutes. Just enable your integrations and let AI do all the mapping for you. My favorite part? I'm glad you asked. The radar doesn't just tell you about your roadmap. It suggests changes you need to make based on the code that's been written and the stories that have been addressed. No commenting, no special setup, all generative AI. It gives you an outside view of your roadmap based on the code and projects a target completion date based on outstanding work and activity. Again, no comments, no special setup. It even detects shadow work when development is being done but Jira isn't being updated. I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I think you will be too. Take a second to watch a short but awesome demo video. Go to codestory.co/PRR to watch it today. You'll like what you see. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more MOR and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This one's for all you tech founders out there. You know that feeling. You finally come up with the perfect name for your startup. Then you check the .com and it's taken, parked, unused, or priced like rent in Palo Alto. So you settle with extra letters, weird spellings, whatever it takes. But hey, you don't have to compromise because now there's finally a domain for tech founders like you. I'm talking about .tech domain names. Get the startup name you actually want on .tech. Absolutely no compromises. What's more, you signal to your customers and investors that you're building tech even with your domain name. Isn't that cool? So if you've got a name in mind, search for it now with .tech on a trusted platform like GoDaddy or visit get.tech/codestory to grab it today. That's get.tech/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mailtrap, an email platform developers love. Try for free at mailtrap.io. That's mailtrap.io. This episode is sponsored by Postman. APIs are the foundation of reliable AI, and reliable APIs start with Postman. Trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500, Postman is the platform that helps over 40 million developers build and scale the APIs behind their most critical business workflows. With Postman, teams get centralized access to the latest LLMs and APIs, MCP support, and no-code workflows, all in one platform. Quickly integrate critical tools and build multi-step agents without writing a single line of code. Start building smarter, more reliable agents today. Visit postman.com/podcast/codestory to learn more. That's postman.com/podcast/codestory. That's a good segue into my next question. I'm curious about how you progressed and matured the product from that point and moved forward. And to wrap it in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is how you built your roadmap, how you went about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Round.
When you're building a startup, one of the worst things you could do is actually create a roadmap. You might have some ideas of where you think the product should go and where you want it to go and some things that you want to see realized in the product eventually. But the most important thing early on, or one could argue throughout the entire lifetime of a product, is to listen to your customers, because they're going to be your biggest champions if you make them happy and if you solve real problems for them. So from the beginning, we were talking to customers, and actually we've made some of our early customers essentially design partners that help shape the product over time. So we avoided creating a 3-month roadmap or a 6-month roadmap, and early on actually focused on doing 1-week iterations. What can we build over the next week that meets a customer ask, a customer need? And actually for quite a while, I would say the first couple of years of doing this, we kept that cadence of looking at the product backlog or looking at what's next every week. So basically every Friday, just looking at that. And more recently, we've gotten into more 2-week iterations, because we've seen that as we build more complex features or as the product gets bigger, we need more time to adequately test things and to ensure that we're designing things correctly and writing the code and testing things correctly. But we've really tried to keep that tight feedback loop and that tight iteration cycle in the context of having bigger blocks that we know are maybe out in the future or that we know we need to get to. For example, passkeys are a fairly new concept in authentication where you don't need a password and you don't need a 2-factor authentication code. You can use a passkey, which essentially gives you both factors wrapped in one thing, and it can use biometrics that are attached to your laptop or your phone, your fingerprint or your face, things like that. And we knew that this was going to be an important part of an authentication story. So it's something that was out in the distance that we said, okay, we need to support this eventually. But we were also waiting for the right customer to need that particular feature. One way that we addressed kind of the tension there of we know we need to build this and we maybe want to have some of that ready to go by the time a customer asks for it, even though a customer hasn't necessarily demanded it today, is we occasionally do what we call a jam, where we basically get the whole team together and we focus them on one particular feature, one particular area. One of our jams was on passkeys, where we essentially built passkey support over about a week and kind of knocked out that block of functionality that we knew we needed and wanted to build over time. And so we used both of those things to mature the product into where it is currently.
I hear you saying we a lot. Tell me about how you built your team. And what do you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
First off, I have to say that the founding team is really important. I have 2 really great co-founders, one who comes from a deep product management background and one who comes from a deep design background, Rob, Rachel. We met at IBM and did some work together at IBM and really saw the meshing of personalities and how we looked at the world, and I knew that we could work together. The way we've built the team and how we've just looked for the humility and the desire to learn and to grow and to work together to build something that's bigger than the sum of its parts, if I can say it that way, has really just knit the team together. And we've just got a lot of synergy in terms of personalities and just how well things mesh. And so that's when we're hiring people, that's really what we're looking for, is people that are going to fit into the existing team construct, that will bring new ideas, and hopefully we'll look at things from different angles and maybe angles we haven't considered before, because that diversity of thought is always important. But people that are really just easy to work with and desire to just build everyone up and to have the rising tide that lifts all boats, so to speak.
This episode is brought to you by Auth. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use Auth. Auth is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like managed UIs, enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, Auth adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When Auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with Auth. Check them out at propelauth.com. That's propelauth.com. This episode is sponsored by MailySearch. In today's digital landscape, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone, and you need a user experience that drives customer satisfaction. You need MailySearch. MailySearch has lightning-fast performance, returning answers in less than 50 milliseconds. Yeah, you heard that right. Faster than the blink of an eye. The open-source AI search engine is plug-and-play, so you can get up and running in minutes with smart presets, allowing you to start searching through your data with zero configuration. MailySearch utilizes advanced full-text search and AI, ensuring your results are ultra-relevant with semantic depth. It's multimodal, supporting images, videos, and audio, along with being federated, i.e. searching across multiple data sources. And it's developer-friendly. Whether you're building a content-rich website or enterprise application, MailySearch delivers the experience your users expect and deserve. For a limited time, CodeStory users can get 2 months free. Use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, at checkout. Just go to MailySearch.com and get started today. That's MEILI search.com. Let's flip to scalability then. I'm curious how you approach this from even the early days, if there's been considerations in scalability. Obviously, it's important in authentication, but I'm curious if there have been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown.
Scale is an interesting thing. It's hard, especially early on, to test for scale to make sure that you can actually achieve scale of your product until you really actually are there and you're starting to see the cracks in your foundation or the pieces that just aren't working well. And so we've had a number of customers that we've grown with who have needed us to scale with them. And that's honestly just a really great way to do it. There's no one better to test your product than your customers. And obviously you should do your own testing, but just the number of things that you'll find because a customer is using it and you can see so much data flowing through it at bigger and bigger scales really just helps squash those bugs. And so one of the challenges that we faced in scaling it is just the combination of raw compute and then like database capacity, and just seeing like more and more queries hitting the database and looking at that from the perspective of, okay, how can we improve the experience here? How do we prevent the database from being a bottleneck in the overall authentication flow? And you can look at that from a variety of perspectives. One being just put more raw compute against the database, and of course that increases your cost. And the other way you can look at it is how can we make the product more efficient? How can we make the queries more efficient? And so we've tried to balance those things as we've scaled, but really, I have to just say getting critical mass with customers is critical in just helping you find the right buttons to push and really working some of those scale kinks out of the product. One of the issues we had to deal with even recently is we had used a particular database provider from the beginning of the product, and we were seeing some scaling issues with that particular provider. And to heap things on top of that, the database provider essentially went out of business and gave us 2 months to move all of our data off. So we had to quickly scramble to complete a database migration from that provider to another one while also continuing to scale with our customers and meeting those demands. And so just watching the team come together and work to just keep the customers happy and to solve the technical problems of essentially rebuilding part of the airplane while it's flying was just a really cool thing to see. And it's just a testament to, I think, the team that we've put together.
As you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built thus far with Round. What are you most proud of?
One of the coolest things that we've done is just how we've focused on making authentication a benefit to the product team. A lot of times authentication it's maybe one of the first things you put in your product, but it's still a little bit of an afterthought. We just need to get people in the door, and then they'll work with the real product. And that's the important piece. But with every customer that we've ever brought on board, we've focused on authentication as part of the product, as a value add to the product and not a detractor. And so I'm just really proud of the way that the product has come together and has created an experience that is both easy for developers to integrate, but also is a net add to the product management team as they work to reduce churn or reduce drop off in their funnels and just really improve the onboarding into their product. And that's one of the things that we see a lot of our customers that come to Round wanting to do, is just really reduce that friction point at the beginning of the product. And I think we've done a really great job meeting them where they are and really helping those product teams get better through authentication.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
It's really easy to not want to face your mistakes or to bury them. One of the things that happened earlier on in the company is we were trying to use some serverless technology to power some of our main business logic and APIs. And one of the things that caused is it was hard to observe exactly how the workload was taking advantage of the compute underneath or was hitting bottlenecks in that compute. And so there was one particular occasion where the service basically was down, or at least heavily degraded for an extended period of time. I think it was the better part of a day that we were just like flat on our backs. And we were scrambling to figure out what was going on. We thought, hey, maybe it's the database provider, but they were saying everything is fine. And we're looking at the observability that we had in the platform, and we just weren't seeing problems from that perspective. And eventually, throughout triaging that problem and really trying to dig into it, we realized that our foundation was shaky and what we were actually running our workloads on. And in addition to that, we didn't have the data that we needed to actually make the right decisions of how to scale up or scale down based on what was happening at the time. And so I think realizing that was really important, and then coming up with a solid plan to improve that foundation and move on to a more stable compute structure and ensure that we had the right visibility in place. And of course, the hardest part of that was going to our customers and saying, hey, we messed up and people have been struggling to use your product as a result of our mistake. And we're sorry about that. And we're doing better. And here's the steps that we're taking. And it was just amazing how I don't think we lost a single customer through that. I think they all were very understanding and gracious through the mistakes that we had made. And it's also that type of thing, that type of fire, walking through the fire, so to speak, that just helps build the team closer together and just give you a deeper set of knowledge of, okay, if I have to do this in the future, if I face a similar situation or architecture decision, I can make better decisions because of the things I've learned through these mistakes.
Let's move forward then. So tell me what the future looks like for Round, for the product and for what you offer and for your team.
As I say, the future is always changing. Since we started Round and have been on this authentication journey, one of the biggest change agents in the world, especially the world of computing, of course, has been the two letters that's on the tip of everyone's tongue these days, AI. AI is changing everything. It's changing the market for SaaS. It's changing the market for various products and services that used to be slam dunks. And I think we're definitely seeing more businesses and app developers and folks like that are looking at Auth and going, I can maybe build this with AI. We're evaluating how that impacts the product and what that means for the future of Round. I think we're proud of how our team has been able to adjust and change over time. And I think the whole team is very excited about AI in general and what's possible with today's large language models and the advances that are being made in that space. And so we're confident that we can face the challenges head on and meet them where they are and build a product that's useful and beneficial to our customers, even in the age of AI. Things are changing so rapidly, it's really hard to predict exactly what all that looks like in a month or 3 months or especially 6 months down the road. But it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking and it's exciting and just very interesting all around.
Okay, Matt, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
There's so many people I can talk about. Certainly my parents and my dad being a computer scientist or computer programmer has had a great influence on me. I'm a believer and a follower of Christ, and so church has always been an important part of my life, and just making sure that what I'm doing aligns with what God wants me to do, and the decisions I'm making day in and day out align with the principles that and commands that he's outlined in Scripture. Those things are very important at a very core foundational level. Just thinking more practical day to day in terms of influences and how Round runs our business and things like that. I would definitely say one of my most favorite books and favorite authors is a guy named Simon Sinek, and he wrote a book. He's written several books, but one of my favorites that he wrote is called Start With Why. And the whole premise of it is that you need to know why you're doing what you're doing before you even decide what you're doing and how you're doing it. When it comes to authentication, we need to know and understand why authentication is important, why we need authentication, why we're approaching authentication the way that we're approaching it before we decide exactly how that's happening and what that looks like. So I think that's one of the biggest, influences from that perspective.
Well, Matt, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
I think the number one piece of advice is listen to your customers. So if you're selling to someone, they are going to have an opinion on what you've built, and their input can be really helpful in shaping the future and the direction of that thing that you're building. And I think the other piece of advice that I would give them is there's going to be ups and downs. And so right now you're riding high, literally, and you're really excited about this, but there's going to come a day sometime soon where things feel bleak and you're maybe not excited about it, and maybe that's temporary, but the key is to not give up and to just keep going and keep iterating and keep working on your craft and get better at what you're doing. And it's okay to fail. You're going to fail sometimes, and you can learn so much from those failures. And that's how you get ultimately to some of those successes. So just keep on going and don't let the bad times get you down, because the good times are coming.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Matt, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Round.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.